The Korean War was mass murder, disguised as defense. The Korean War wasn't a noble fight against communism. It was 3 years of systematic slaughter that killed 20% of North Korea's population. Behind the propaganda about defending freedom lies a horrific record of massacres, deliberate civilian targeting, and wholesale destruction that reduced an entire nation to ash. At No-Gun Rai in July 1950, U.S. troops trapped hundreds of South Korean refugees under a railway bridge and opened fire for over 60 hours. They killed approximately 400 civilians, men, women, children, following direct orders to shoot. When the Army later claimed it was an accident, survivors and U.S. military advisors called bullshit. Military logs that could prove the chain of command mysteriously disappeared. This wasn't combat stress, it was policy. Korean lives simply didn't matter to American commanders. The numbers are staggering. North Korea's population dropped from 9.3 million to 7.4 million during the war, a loss of 1.2 million civilians through bombing, displacement, and starvation. That's 1 in 5 people dead. Soviet archives confirm this demographic catastrophe that gutted an entire generation. By comparison, the US lost 36,000 soldiers. America was willing to kill 33 Korean civilians for every American soldier who died. American bombers systematically destroyed every major North Korean city. Pyongyang was 75% rubble. General O'Donnell bragged in 1951, "Everything is destroyed." The weapon of choice was napalm, jellied gasoline that melts flesh from bone. Even Winston Churchill privately condemned Americans for splashing it all over the civilian population. This wasn't military strategy, it was deliberate terror against civilians. In 1953, U.S. forces targeted hydroelectric dams, flooding farmland to starve millions. General Dean called it a terrible mess, understating what amounts to using famine as a weapon of war. Declassified documents reveal credible evidence that American forces tested biological weapons on Korean populations, working with former Japanese Unit 731 scientists who had tortured Chinese prisoners during World War II. The 1952 International Scientific Commission found that the U.S. dropped plague-infected fleas and anthrax on civilian areas. A 1951 Joint Chiefs order called for large-scale field tests of biological agents. Korea became America's testing ground for weapons of mass destruction. Korea wasn't unique, it was the template. The same anti-communist ideology that justified burning Korean cities would fuel CIA-backed massacres in Indonesia, 1965 to 66, that killed 500,000 to 1 million people. Similar campaigns followed in Guatemala, Chile, and Iran. This Jakarta method revealed the truth. America would destroy entire societies rather than let them choose alternative economic systems. The Korean War proved American willingness to commit genocide for ideological control. The institutional cover-up was as systematic as the killing. Military records disappeared, investigations were blocked, and survivors were ignored for decades. This wasn't incompetence, it was deliberate erasure of evidence. By denying the scale of civilian targeting, officials maintained the fiction that mass murder was just unfortunate collateral damage rather than deliberate policy. The Korean War established America's template for global domination: frame ideological conflicts as existential threats, deploy overwhelming force against civilians, then rewrite history to hide the carnage. The demographic catastrophe in North Korea, 20% population loss, ranks among the worst of the 20th century, yet remains absent from American memory. This erasure is violence itself. Denying Korean suffering serves American mythology about fighting for freedom, while the reality was industrial-scale slaughter. Understanding this history isn't just about honoring the dead, it's about recognizing that the techniques perfected in Korea continue shaping how America wages war today. The Korean War wasn't defense against communism. It was a campaign of annihilation that proved America would burn entire nations rather than accept limits on its global dominance.